Spring Boot microservices, if Spring Boot microservices will be completed, then after, better to go for the microservices. But if already Spring Boot, if already you know Spring Boot, then you can attend for the microservices, because while building the microservices there in the project as well, I'll explain actually.
Yeah, I have the basic knowledge about the microservices. Means how to create that services, individual autonomous services, and means establishment of Eureka naming servers and all those things. I have that basics about that, but I haven't done any project on that, so that's why I'm asking.
Okay. Good enough actually. Then you can attend. Meaning, if you have the basic knowledge, then you can attend.
Okay, sir. Tomorrow session, then I will join at morning.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, I got the host access. Then hope you are now able to see my screen, I believe. Yeah, so yesterday we discussed about the Spring Framework definition. In that, we have seen what is framework. And I have shown you the practically what is framework, I mean, how we can create a framework. Just we have taken simple reusable code. I mean to say, reusable code is what we have written yesterday, which is also called as a framework basically. So framework is a semi-finished application which can be customized and reused as per our requirements, which will provide a readily available solution for our requirements, right? So Spring is a framework, and Spring is a framework for building the Java-based enterprise web applications. So we need to understand this enterprise web application. What is enterprise web application? But before that, let us try to understand the Spring Framework history. So first, let us see the history of the Spring Framework history. So let us first see this history of the Spring Framework. Okay. So Spring Framework, born as an alternative to the EJBs, Enterprise Java P. Okay, Spring Framework born as an alternative to the EJB, and alternative to the EJB. EJBs were famous. Spring Framework born as an alternative to the EJB, which is famous. EJBs were famous early in the year 2000, right? So that are meaning the EJBs are famous early. EJBs are famous early in the 2000, meaning EJBs are already there since 1999. Java J2EE first released in 1999. Then EJB, Enterprise Java been released in 2000. So it is very popular framework in 2000. What is EJB and all? It's a different story, but just think about it. It is also a way of creating the objects. Guys, can you please mute? Yeah, it is also a way of creating the objects, but with a complex structure. So how we can create the objects, how to maintain it. EJB is also creating one container and then maintaining the objects there, but it's a complex structure. So let us go that part maybe later on time. First, let us focus on the history of the Spring Framework. So Spring Framework was born as an alternate. So Spring Framework was born as an alternate to the EJB, which were famous early in the 2000s. So EJBs are invented as part of the Java Enterprise Edition and is very complex actually. So EJBs are invented as part of the Java Enterprise Edition. Which is very complex by nature, or they have created it is like with a complex architecture. There is remote method invocation, and there is RMI, remote method invocation server, and there is container, a complex architecture it is. So forget about its architecture and all, but just remember these words. EJBs are invented as part of the Java Enterprise Edition with the very complexity. With the very complexity in nature, with the very complexity. Usually they were invented with the very complexity, right? So to avoid that complexity and to make the developer life easy, Spring came as an alternative to the EJB. So to avoid that complexity, and to make the developer life easy, right? An alternate to EJB, as an alternate to EJB. So, and as an alternate to EJB. I know most of you guys know about Spring and all, but I'm starting since the beginning. I'm not going to discuss all the modules of the Spring, but I'm going to discuss the Spring Core, Spring Web MVC. But before that, I would like to give the Spring history, which is very, very important for the candidates who don't know the Spring, right? So to avoid the complexity and to make the developer life easy, as an alternate to the EJB, Rod Johnson created a framework called Spring in 2000. Actually, Spring framework was not released in 2000. Rather, this Rod Johnson published one book, actually. Expert one on some book is there. Book name is, let us go to Spring version history. Wikipedia, if you can see. In the Wikipedia, you can see. So the first version was written by Rod Johnson, who released the framework with the publication of his book, Expert One-on-One J2W Design and then Development in October 2022. He was not released the code as an open source. He was not released. But what happened, he written this book called Expert One-on-One J2W Design and Development. So existing J2W architectures and existing J2W complexities he was taken, and he was given a solution for simplest solutions for that J2W design complexities in this book called Expert One-on-One J2W Design and then Development in October 2022. So he was written this book, right? In the book, he was written around 36,000 lines of code. 36,000 lines of code he was mentioned, code snippets, 36 lines of code he was mentioned in this book. So that 36 lines of code was, this book was very much sold in the year 2002 and then in the year 2003. So what happened, there was community, open source community people also started reading this book. So one of the two of the members who came from the open source and then asked him to, why don't you publish this code, whatever the code you have written right here in the book, why don't you publish that code as an open source framework? They asked the Rod Johnson. So then Rod Johnson used the package name in this book. The package name is called as Interface 21. That means 21st century. We are now in the 21st century programming interface. That is the meaning of it. Rod Johnson is the founder of the Interface 21 company. It's not a big company, but small. Interface 21 is the company he was founded. So what happened then? The person's name, I didn't remember exactly those persons' name, but two persons who came and then asked him, so why don't you release that code as an open source framework? Then what happened, Rod Johnson given that code with the Apache 2.0 license in June 2003. So the framework was first released under the Apache 2.0 release in 2003. This is the first code release, meaning the framework code is released to the public in 2003. But we still say the first version of the framework, Spring framework, was released in 2002 only. Why? Because he was not given the code whatever he was written, but that code, the 36 lines of code he was written in that book, right? So this is considering as a first release of the Spring framework. Okay, so then what happened? Meaning the first release of the Spring framework came into the market. Then the people started already the people who is loving this book, who is reading this book, right? So they started following this open source code as well, meaning Apache 2.0 license, right? So we can go and then download the code and we can see. So a lot of people were started looking at the code. So what they were understood is the code is very simple. For the complex problems, the developers can easily use this code, and developers can reduce a lot of code burden, meaning no need to write lines of code. Rather, they can write a simple code snippets with this Rod Johnson's code. So what happened now? The people are started using this Spring framework, right? Slowly in 2003, when the code was published, from there the people started using this Spring framework code. So slowly, what happened actually? The Spring framework code becomes so popular, right? So it becomes so popular. Then the main competitor to this Spring framework is what? EJB. So the people of using the EJB were reduced. And then the Spring, the people using the Spring were increased drastically over the years. One fine day, what happened? Arkil decided, because the Java EE taken by the Arkil, right? Java taken by the Arkil, right? So one fine day, Arkil decided. So everyone is using the Spring framework nowadays. No one is using the Java EE. Then why we should maintain Java EE? So rather we will give the Java EE to some open source community. So that open source community is what? Jakarta. Okay, got my point, right? So now let us see the Java EE version history. Java EE version history. If you can see the Java EE version history in the Wikipedia, the first version was released in the year 1999, which supports to Java 1.2 version. Then J2EE 1.3 released in 2001, which supposed to Java 1.3. Then Java EE5 released in the year 2006, with support to Java annotations. Likewise, see this till 2017, the Java EE versions were released, meaning maintained by the Arkil. But what happened? Since 2012, 2013, 2014, since 2012, Spring has been drastically used by most of the frameworks. I mean, most of the projects are started using the Spring, meaning massive usage. Huge number of projects are using the Spring framework. They are allowed to use that Spring framework, especially Spring core concepts in their project. So like that, what happened? The people reduced. I mean, the people were reduced, and there were very less projects running on Java EE8. Then Arkil people decided, I think there is no point in maintaining this Java EE8. So there is no point in maintaining Java EE8, and then we can hand over it to some open source community. That's where they have given this Java EE8 to Jakarta community. They were given it to Jakarta community in the year 2017. So that's how the Java EE8, eliminated from the race with the Spring framework. Now, after Java EE8, while giving this code to Jakarta Open Source Foundation, they have given one condition. They put one condition. What condition? Java is the trademark of the Arkil. Of course, first Sun Microsystems, then from there the Arkil, have taken this Java as a trademark. So what they told, don't use Java, give some other name, and then you start maintaining the code of this Enterprise Edition 8. So then what happened? This Jakarta Jakarta guys were taken this and then renamed it as a Jakarta, and then released one version EE9. So they were changed the packages from Java X to Jakarta. So whatever the Java X dot, right? Java X dot Servlet, they were changed it to Jakarta.Servlet now from the Jakarta EE9 onwards. So they were taken around 2 years to do this task, and in 2019 they were released it with the Jakarta label. So Jakarta as the trademark. Then they were released the Enterprise Edition 8. So that is how the Jakarta EE8 came into the market, and now Jakarta EE10 is now happening. So Spring Boot 3 is now supporting this Jakarta EE10 specification, meaning Spring Boot is supporting Jakarta EE10. So that means what? Spring Boot 3.x onwards, a support for this Jakarta EE.in has been added. So whatever the applications, if any Servlet applications or JSP applications or JSTL applications are need to integrate with the Spring framework, then it is possible to integrate from the Spring Boot 3.x onwards with this Jakarta. Okay, so this is the history of the Jakarta. So parallelly, what happened now? Now we got it right. Jakarta, meaning the Java EE8. After this 2017, Oracle people hand over it to the Jakarta Foundation, Open Community Foundation, open source community. Then open source community guys were spent 2 years of time, and then they were refactored the code. Wherever they seen the Java X, they changed it to Jakarta, and then full compatible code they were released. So now the Jakarta EE10 was released in the year 2022. So in supports to Java SC11 and then Java SC17. Now what happened, Spring Boot 3.x was released in same November. So if we can go here, let us see the Spring Framework history. One moment, there is history of the Spring Framework. One moment, let us see the Spring Framework, Spring version history. If you can see, just let me go here, scroll down. So version here only given. You can see Spring Framework 6.0 has been released on 16th November 2022 and came with the Java 17 plus baseline. So this is 16th November 2022. And Jakarta, same 13th November 2022. So that means what? Jakarta released first, which supports Java SC11 and then Java SC17. Then Spring Framework 6 released in 16th November with support of the Jakarta EE and then with the Java 17 plus, Jakarta EE 9 plus and then Java 17 plus. The Spring Framework 6.x has been released in the November 2022. So in November 2022 only, Spring Boot 3.0 also has been released. Once after the release of the Spring Framework 6.0 happened, after exactly a week, then the Spring Boot 3.0 has been released. You got my point, right? So this is how the releases are happening. However, the current version of the Spring Boot, one of the feature of the Spring Boot 3.x is it is giving the support to the Jakarta EE10. Jakarta EE9 plus. That means 10 also will come. Okay, so that is what the Spring Framework, how it has been emerged. So if we can see the this Spring Framework version history. So as we mentioned, the first version was released in October 2022, meaning it's not the official version, but it will be treated as a first version. Actually, the official first version was released under the Apache 2.0 license in June 2003. So the first production release 1.0 was released in March 2004. So this is the first production release. This is the first production release, March 2004. And then the Spring Framework 1.2.x, 1A, JOT Productivity Award, and then JOX Innovation Award in 2006. And then Spring 2.0 was released in October 2006. So what happened, now after this Spring Framework 1.2 came, first release of the Spring Framework done in March 2024, what happened is there is a guy called Alex Ben. Alex Ben is the person, Ben Alex. His name is Ben Alex. So Ben Alex is the person who designed the ASG security framework. So that Ben Alex came to, in 2003, the Ben Alex came to Rod Johnson, and then he given the ASG security code to Rod Johnson. Then Rod Johnson designed it as a Spring security and then embedded as one of the module in the Spring Framework. So initially, the Spring Framework was released with only two modules. One is the Spring Core, and second one is the Spring Web MVC. Spring Core and not Spring Web MVC. Spring Core and Spring MVC, not Web MVC. So initially, Spring came up with the Spring Core and Spring MVC. When in the year of October 2022, in the year of 2022. So once this code has been released under the Apache 2.0 license in 2003, when the code was released under Apache license in 2003, then Ben Alex came to the Rod Johnson. He spoke to Rod Johnson. Hey, Rod Johnson, I have designed one security framework called ASG security. Let us work together and then include it as the security module in your Spring Framework. Then Rod Johnson accepted it and both worked together. Then the Spring Framework 2.x module introduced in the Spring Framework architecture. Okay, in the Spring Framework, the Spring Security 2.x was introduced and then released as part of this March 2024 release, the first production release, right? So slowly, as how the Java versions are, releasing, like when it is 2003 means Java SC 1.4, 2006 Java SC 1.5. So if you can see here, Spring Framework 2.0 was released in October 2006. Why? Because, why they were released, because Java 2006, right? So Java SC5, JDK5 released with the annotations concept. JDK5 released with the annotations concept. So before JDK5, there were no annotations. But in JDK5, a lot of annotations were given. So JDK5 released in 2006. That's the reason to support this JDK5. Then the Spring Framework also released its version. So if you can see here, this is in the May. Of course, this Java EE is in the May, but Java SC5 even before the May. So, but the Spring Framework released in October. That means 2.0 included the support for the JDK 1.5. So this again, Spring 2.0 given the support, but there were no annotation support in Spring 2.0. This was a very famous question in the year 2011, 2012. Very famous question. From which version of the Spring Framework the annotations were introduced? The annotations support was introduced from which version of the Spring Framework? So from the Spring Framework 2.5 in November 2007, the annotations support, meaning the Spring Framework has been came up with the annotations. Spring Framework came up with the annotations in the version Spring 2.5. Before Spring 2.5, Spring Framework don't have the annotations. And Spring 2.5 onwards, that means from November 2007 onwards, they were introduced the annotations because already Java JDK5 has been introduced with the annotations. So framework also released with the annotations in 2007. Already 2007, you can see probably Java SC6 released in 2009. So yeah, in November 2007, it is released in the sense to support the JDK 1.5 annotations. meaning using the JDK 1.5 annotations of annotations way, the Spring also has been released with the annotations. Okay, then Spring 3.0 released in December 2009. If we can see in December 2009, in the sense Java SE released. 2009 Java SE released. Java SE released with the concept of managed beans and then REST. So with the concept of managed beans and then the REST. So this concept is included in Java SE6. To support those, the Spring 3.0 was released with the more annotations and also with the aspect programming. With the of course, aspect programming was already there, but the aspect programming was robusted and fully annotation support was given from the Spring Framework 3.0 onwards, which is released in 2009. And from there, Spring 3.1 released in December 2011, because in 2011, there might be a major Java release happened. No Java release happened. So Java 7 release happened in the May. So yeah, so 2011 Spring 3.1 and 3.2.5 in November 2003. See this again, 3.2.5 November 2023 released, because in November 2023 2013 Java 7 is released. So to support this, Spring also released 3.2.5. Then Spring Framework 4.0 was released in December 2013. So 2013 in the sense, again, to support the Java SE7, WebSocket, JSON, HTML5, to have this support in the Spring Framework. Spring Framework also released in 2013 with the 4.0. Again, notable improvements in Spring 4.0 include support for Java SE8, Standard Edition 8, and Groovy 2, and some aspects of Java EE7 and WebSocket, because WebSocket support was there in the here Java SE8 in 2017. So that's the reason in 2013 Spring 4 is released with the Java SE7, and then Spring 4.0 included the support for Java SE Standard Edition 7. Actually, this is not 8, Standard Edition 7 and Groovy 2, and some aspects of the Java EE7. I think Java 8 probably, but I'm not sure. But Java EE7 and then WebSocket. Then here you can see in 2014. So this is in the 2013. Then in 2014, the Spring Boot 1.0 released. Spring Boot 1.0 released in 2014. Why? Because in Spring Framework 4.0, they were given the support for Groovy. So Groovy have a concept of the lambdas. First, initially, the Groovy programming language has a concept called lambda, functional programming. So serverless programming, functional programming concepts was there in the Groovy first. Basically in Groovy, very fast development. Using Groovy, we can do a very fast development. For example, using Java, if we write the 10 lines of code, using Groovy, the same functionality we can achieve by writing only 2 to 3 lines of code. So Spring team is really fascinated about this Groovy. And they got a thought, actually, why can't we build such a framework which can do like a Groovy? So that framework is called as Spring Boot. Less code, function more. With the less code, function more. So that's where the Spring Boot 1.0 was released in 2014 with the motivation got from the Groovy, with the motivation got from the Groovy 2, with a lot of annotations support and with a lot of functional programming support, Lambda support, less code support, embedded server support, lot of features. Then Spring Boot 1.0 released in the April 2004. Then Spring Framework 4.2.0 was released on 31st July 2005 and was immediately upgraded to 4.2.1, which was released in September 2015. Just within the 3 months, they were upgraded their version to 4.2.1. So it is compatible with Java 6, Java 7, and 8, and with a focus on core refinements and modern web capabilities. Because if you can see here in 2015, something might be happening. Oh no, not happened, but we can see some gap here, right? So JDK Java AC 7 to Java AC 8, our Spring framework is still here supporting only Java 7 and then Java 8 actually. Okay, so what I mean to say is there were major changes happened immediately and then released 4.2.1 in the just within the 2 months of the time. So Spring Framework 4.3 has been released on 10th June 2016. Again, 4.3 released on 2016 and will be supported till 2020, right? Then Spring 5 is announced to be built upon reactive streams compatibility, reactive streams compatible with the React core. So Spring Framework 6 has been released on November 2022. So this is the history, like how the Spring Framework was released. Now see this with the release of the Spring Framework 6.0, 16th November 2022, Spring Boot also released. So let us see the Spring Boot version history. Spring Boot version history, it's not given, seems to be, yeah, Spring Framework is given, but Spring Boot version history, let us check from the Maven Central Repository. See this, 1.0 released in 2014, and then 2.0, see this, 2.0 released in 2018. After 4 years, 2.0 released. Then see the over the years you can see 2.0 in 2018 and then 2.1 in again 2018 and then 2.2 somewhere you can see 2.2 in 2019 and then Spring Boot 2.3 in 2020 and Spring Boot 2.4 again in 2020 and Spring Boot 2021 Spring Boot 2.4.2 and then Spring 2.5 released in Spring Boot 2.5 released in May 2021. So you can see 2.7.0. So up to 2023 it is 2.7.0. Meaning 2023 March 2023 it 2.7.10 is there, but if you can see in November 2022 only Spring Boot 3.0 released. So though the Spring Boot 3.0 released, still there is a support for the Spring Boot 2.7. So that means what? How the Spring frameworks are releasing the versions after exactly 1 week. Spring Boot is also upgrading their versions to support that latest Spring framework and then releasing. So this is how the Spring framework and then the Spring Boot frameworks were released, right? So current version of the Spring framework is 6.x and then the current version of the Spring Boot is 3.x and then the current version of the Jakarta EE is Jakarta EE 10, Jakarta Enterprise Edition 10. So these are the versions and then these are the history of the Spring framework. Okay, now we can see one more thing, how these Spring framework versions were released basically. So everybody should have to know for the knowledge purpose actually. So everybody should have to know for the knowledge purpose. And we also have to know about the enterprise editions. One moment, guys. Yeah, I'm back. So everybody should have to know about how the versions will be released. So now let us focus on the versions. So let us go to Spring. So in the repository, let us go to Spring, not Spring Boot. Let us go to Spring Framework, org.spring framework. So this everybody should have to know how the versions will be released and all. Just let us take this one, Spring. So now you can see here M4 RC, right? M4 RC and 1.0, and somewhere you can see M1, M2, M3, and then again RC, and then release versions, and then SC01, SC02 release versions, and then stable versions. So what you understand from here? So versions are releasing as M means milestones. Milestones in the sense, first versions are released as a snapshots. So I believe snapshots you can't find here. So first these versions are released as a snapshots, then the milestones, then the release candidate, then the general availability. So this 1.0 is called as the general availability, GA. So there were 4 stages in these releases. Again, about those releases we will discuss later on time, but release types we will discuss in Spring Boot 3.x. But now you got, I believe you got now understood about the Spring framework, how it has been originated by the Rod Johnson from the year 2002, and how it has won the race over the EJP, which was there earlier to the Spring framework in 2000s only. But Spring framework dominated and then becomes world most popular Java framework nowadays. Okay, I believe you got it. Now let us go to our term called enterprise. What we said, Spring framework is a enterprise web application. So we need to understand what is this enterprise is. So before that, first let's see what is enterprise edition. So again, I will update this document. But before that, let us see what is this enterprise edition. Okay, so CoreJava, we call it as a standard edition, right? So inside CoreJava, again, we have the 3 editions, 3 kinds of flavors basically. So inside Java, I mean to say, so inside Java, we have 3 flavors. What are they? One is standard edition. We call it as SE. And second one is what? Java. We can say it as Java standard edition, right? And we can say it as a Java ME, mobile edition. So we can say it as a ME, mobile edition. Then we have a Java enterprise edition. Very, very important, this enterprise word. We are now trying to understand that enterprise edition or enterprise word we are now trying to understand. So what is this standard edition? Standard edition, we have all the CoreJava classes, interfaces, and object classes, collections, APIs, Jdbc, exception handling, whatever the CoreJava, that will comes under this Java standard edition. Right? So complete CoreJava comes under this Java SE7. So Java SE. Then Java ME, mobile edition. So this compact. So the CoreJava has been designed, the Java has been designed as a compact version. So compact version of the Java SE is nothing but the Java ME. Java mobile edition for this, what is Android, iOS. So for the mobile platform, for the mobile operating systems, the CoreJava has been compacted and then given as a mobile edition. Then this enterprise edition, Java enterprise edition. So this is for especially this enterprise edition is for developing the web applications. So especially for the development of web applications. So for the development of web applications, the Java Enterprise Edition came into the market. So what this Java Enterprise Edition contains? It contains servlets, and we know it contains the servlets, JSP, EJB, JMS, and RMI, remote method invocations, and then JPA, and then JSF, Java Server Faces, and then JAXB, right? And then the JAXWS for the web services, and then WebSockets, etc. Many more also there. So these are all comes with the Enterprise Edition. So these are all comes with the Enterprise Edition. Now you can see in Standard Edition, we have just CoreJava. CoreJava classes, interfaces, APIs, right? Exceptions, collections, threads, whatever there were the concepts in core Java. So all those comes under the standard edition, right? But in the web edition, that means Java EE, this is for development of the web application. What is meant by web application? If the application will be accessed over the web nothing but internet. If the application will be accessed over the web, then we call it as a web application. So in order to make it to be accessible over the web, we require the server. We require the servers, and then we require the server-side technologies. So that's where these technologies were emerged out as part of the Java Enterprise Edition. So servlets, sorry guys, let me take, servlets for the request response handling, session management, right? And then the JSP for rendering the data in a nice UI, and then EJB for maintaining the enterprise Java beans, meaning the business logic will be created, and then business logic will be created as an objects, and then these objects can be transported using this RMI remote method invocations, and the JMS will be for sending the messages, mail services basically, and this is for the persistent API to persist the data into the databases. And this is again one more flavor of the UI server faces, which is little richer than the JSP pages. These JSF pages were there. And then JAXB for XML objects convert to Java, and then Java objects convert to XML. So this JAXB was released as part of 1.5, and then Java X.WS was released as part of 1.6, right, for supporting the web services. Then WebSockets also was released as part of the Java 1.7. So these are all comes under the Java EE version, Enterprise Edition. Now coming to the name, what is enterprise? Enterprise meaning if the services that will be used in the real time, the real services, if we use the real services, the services that we are using in the real time in the sense, for example, we are now accessing the Amazon website. So that is what real time, because it realistically was there, and then we are accessing, right? And I'm transferring the amount to your bank. It is real time. It is realistic, right? So as soon as you receive the amount from me, you are getting a message, right? That is realistic. That is real time. So if the services will be used in real time, then that is called as enterprise. Enterprise meaning more real-time services, more problems we are solving with these services. For example, I want to get a mail once after the bank account has been created with the credentials to access my bank dashboard. Then the mailing system is required. So JMS is supporting that, right? So similarly, there were a lot of services were introduced here, so which will solve the real-time problems. That is the reason we call it as an enterprise. If the application, whatever the code we have written, let's say I have written code yesterday, SBI bank customers will be registered, Jdbc bank customers will be registered. So if we add the real-time services like mail server, messaging server, or maybe the web server for accessing the application over the web, then it becomes an enterprise. So enterprise meaning adding the real services, realistical services on top of our code to make it available to the real-time users. That is called what? Enterprise. So now coming back to the definition of the Spring Framework. Spring Framework is also a Java-based, meaning Spring Framework is also used for developing the enterprise web applications. That means Spring also have the supporting for what? Real-time services like JMS, messaging, right? Or maybe the transactions, correct? Or maybe security. So these are what? Real-time, these are all required. So whatever the real-time requirements are there, those are offering as a services by the Spring. And hence we are calling it as a enterprise. So hence we are calling enterprise web applications we can develop using the Spring. And Spring is coming as a framework, meaning already readily, half readily available features are there. For example, if you want to send an email, there was a JMS template. You can use it and then send the email. So JMS template is offering by the Spring framework. And then to the JMS template, you input whatever the email you want to send the email. That's it. It will send an email. So which is called as again enterprise service. So for the web applications, the enterprise services were offering by the Spring framework. So that is the reason Spring is said to be a framework to build the Java-based enterprise web applications. So that's all from the Spring history, and comparative with the Java J2EE history. So tomorrow we'll see the Spring framework architecture. So from there we will start the Spring core. So how the Spring framework architecture in 2.x, how it is in 3.x, how it is in 4.x, 5.x, 6.x. All these architectures we have to review. So once all these architectures were reviewed, then we came to know what are the modules were added in each and every version. So then we will start the one of the module of the Spring framework as Spring core. Okay, so that's all from my side, guys. Any questions for me? Okay.
Sir, Spring core is the foundation and the more basic thing for Spring advanced Spring, like IOC and all.
Spring core is the module which contains the IOC. Spring core is the module which is creating the IOC container. Meaning Spring core is the module which is talking about the IOC and then dependency injection. So this IOC and then dependency injection are the basis for developing the web applications using Spring, or for developing the any other modules. If you take any other module, then the Spring core is the base. For example, Spring security, Spring core is the base. Spring aspect-oriented programming, Spring core is the base. So any module you can take in Spring, for example, to develop the web services, Spring core is the basis. So Spring core is the basis for all the modules inside the Spring framework. We'll discuss in the Spring framework architecture.
Okay, sir. And Spring MVC is not in core, sir.
Spring, okay. I think your questions will be addressed if you can see the Spring framework architecture. So okay, this is what.
Because I'm just trying to confirm if I won't miss anything, because just with CoreJava without collections, that's my
correct. Understood. Understood. See this Spring core. So Spring core, on top of the Spring core, Spring web is there, Spring data access is there, AOP, aspects, instruments, all these modules are there on top of the core, Spring core. Without Spring core, we can't work with all these modules. Even Spring test also depends on the Spring core. So this is the base module for all other modules. Got it? Huh?
Absolutely clear, sir.
Yeah, great.
Sir, we need to have any front-end knowledge like HTML or not, because I'm zero on front-end web design.
Don't worry about it. We are not the front-end developers, first of all. Okay, forget about it. Designers were there who will give the designing pages for us. HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Bootstrap. If you don't know, very happy. If you know, okay. If you don't know, very happy, because you are the backend developer. Okay, so not the front-end technologies developer. You are the backend developer, and you will be becoming a full stack developer as well. So don't worry about it. No. CoreJava is good enough. That's enough. Okay. Any more questions, guys?
Yeah, actually, where can I access these notes?
These notes will be uploaded to the Google Classroom, and once these demos will be completed by tomorrow, and whoever were enrolled maybe by the Monday, then for them I will share the classroom access. So from the classroom, you guys can get these notes and all.
Okay, so tomorrow we can log in into the same link. Or
yes, same link. Yes, same link. Okay. Tomorrow is the final demo, and you can log in with the same link. And then Saturday, Sunday, no classes. You can go with your enrollment process, guys, if you feel it will be helpful for you. And then from Monday onwards, we'll be connected at the same time with a new link, and that new link will be sent by our backend team.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Sir, first 2 weeks, let's not have Saturday, Sunday classes, sir, so that my other syllabus will be over, if you don't mind. I mean, I know it's selfish of me because others are on time, but just trying to ask you.
No problem. 100% I don't put the classes on Sunday, at least for the coming 2 to 3 weeks. Saturday, let us see, because based on the pace how we are going, I'll decide on Saturday. But Sunday, no classes for at least coming 2 to 3 weeks. Okay. Yeah. Any more questions? Okay, great, guys. Though it is late night in India, IST, you guys, shown your interest to at least to listen what I'm saying, right? So that's great, really. So thank you so much,
Thank you,
and
sir.
thanks a lot. Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah, I just wanted to know if suppose I enroll, so what could be the validity for to assess your notes and something?
Okay. Okay.
Not for the videos, because videos are, I know that it will be
Yeah.
100
Yeah.
or 60 or something, but what are the...
Correct. So notes also, actually notes also, I'm giving the validity as that of the videos now. For example, videos are, let us say, for the 6 months, assume. Notes also will be available for the 6 months. If any updates are happened, I will update. And then after 6 months, the classroom will be discarded. So before discarding the classroom, 2 to 3 weeks ahead of time, I will send an email to all the folks, so that you can download the latest material and then keep it with you if you have not downloaded by that time.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the questions for the tomorrow session, how many projects we are going to conduct over there as per the Spring Boot and the microservices?
Sorry, sir, I didn't get your question. Could you please repeat? Because
how many real-time projects are going to be there in tomorrow's session?
Okay.
In real-time project.
Okay. In real-time project, actually, only one project we will do. We don't have, meaning whatever the time I mentioned, right, 75 days, that really not sufficient to do that application, because it's a very huge applications, and around 15 to 20 services we will build. So it's not kind of, don't think it as, mini projects, main projects or mega projects. That is the BTech terminology, in my opinion, not the professional terminology. Mini projects and mega, what is mini, what is mega? Nothing. You are doing a real-time project, right? A real-time project meaning there were a lot of enterprise requirements. So those enterprise requirements we have to solve. So that is the reason we are freezing the requirements first, right? We are freezing the requirements first. We are collecting the requirements, what we can achieve within the 75 days. And on those requirements, we'll work efficiently, and we'll add a lot of things like unit testing, integration testing, functional testing, and then the containerization, scaling, deployment, lot of things were there, and integrating with the UI frameworks, emails, message sendings, mail sendings, right? And the forget passwords, change passwords, password rollouts, lot of stuff was there. So we are freezing the requirements now, which we can do within the 75 days. And on those requirements, we will start developing the microservices. Got it?
Yeah, got it, sir. And based on that project, do I get any certifications or just for the knowledge?
That is for the knowledge purpose and also for the experience purpose. Certification, this is course completion certification will give to you, but you that is for the job oriented one. Honestly speaking, fully job oriented one, that is. If you attend the project, then you will get the job 100%. Meaning that is 100% job oriented. Plus, if you work that project, when you go inside the company, you never come back. And in fact, you will be a definitely key player in the team, because you are trained on ever latest technology, that is Spring Boot 3.x. Maybe your colleagues who might be working with the Spring Boot 2.5, 2.7, they might not got the time to learn the Spring Boot 3.x, but you know the Spring Boot 3.x. So you better guide them, like, this was the features, this is how we can do, this is what we can do, because you have a end-to-end enterprise knowledge, meaning architectural knowledge here. Maybe your colleagues might not get that chance to know the end-to-end architectures, whereas you got it now. So you can suggest better to them. That is what the primary motto of that course. Got it?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Any more questions?
Sir, I have one question, sir.
Yeah, please.
It is related to, sir, databases, because I'm beginner, sir, so I'm taking opportunity. Actually, sir, how much database knowledge is related to when it comes to the Java developer?
Okay. If this question is asked, let's say, there are two kinds of developments we followed before or till 2015, 2014, 2013. We used to have a separate DBS, database administrators, and who were written the PSQL queries, and then who were written the lot of queries and all, lot of SQL queries they used to build, and that files we used to feed into the database, and then our application is used to connect to it. But right now we are using the JPA. So everything, the tables, relations, everything will be built by the JPA itself only. I believe, meaning what I'm saying is, for your question, database RDBMS knowledge is required. So, but no need to have a particular server knowledge like MySQL or Oracle. It is good to have, but what I'm saying is database management concept knowledge are very required. For example, you have to know what is table, you have to know what is primary key, what is foreign key, what is association, what is entity relation, what is cardinal, what is ordinal, and then what is the normalization. So if these 7 to 8 concepts of the database management system then it is more than enough. You no need to know any Oracle, you no need to know any MySQL, you no need to know any other servers, because nowadays we are working on polyglot architectures. That means one microservice may connect to MongoDB, another microservice may connect to DynamoDB, one may connect to Oracle, other may connect to MySQL, based on the business needs. So no one be a perfect on any one of the database servers nowadays, even not required even. So what I mean to say is, for your question, have the knowledge on the database management concepts. That is more than enough. Got it?
Yeah, thank you, sir. I got my answer.
Yes. Hi, sir. After this course, will you do the real-time project session course again? Yes, 100%. 100% sharing. After this course completed, definitely one more real-time project batch I will start, but that is not allowed you as a free, however. Little concession, and then maybe little concession, or maybe with the discounts coupon, you might be come and then join there, but that is not an extension of this project. I mean, this class. Okay, right. Great, guys. Yeah, the demo videos will be sent by our backend team to your email. Just go through it. And tomorrow, let us complete the understanding the Spring Framework architectures. So in the diagram, they were given Spring Framework runtime, right? There is a lot of meaning for it. However, we will try to understand the architectures from 1.x2, meaning 2.x to 6.x. Then we will note down the changes happened. Then we will start our first module of the Spring Framework, that is Spring Core. Just believe me, if you know in depth of the Spring Core, then you can work on any of the module that the Spring guys can add tomorrow. Spring Boot 3.0 or Spring Boot 3.5, Spring Boot 10.x in future, right? You can easily learn, and then you can easily cope up because you have a strong foundational core container. This is very important. I can say this is heart of your Spring Framework, right? If you are the heart surgeons, then you rule it. Okay. So let us try to get a maximum in-depth knowledge on this core container. Okay. Yep. That's all from my side, guys. Thank you so much. Yeah. Mastan, any questions?
Yeah, sir. So if you purchase like your pre-recording videos, so not online classes, so does this covers the entire latest versions also there?
Already. Let me. So already last time Spring Boot microservices course happened. That was in the last 2022 September, October, I believe. So that was not covered with that was at that moment, whatever the latest. So 2.7, I believe, latest, we went through it. But now Spring Boot 3.0 came. So here we will cover the Spring Boot 3.0 new features, right? These 2 to 3 videos will be added there. Okay. Got my point, huh? Otherwise, what we can do, whoever have purchased the Spring Boot courses, so whatever the latest, we will give the access for the latest over the period, in the subscription period. Let's say you have the 6 months of subscription period. Within that 6 months, I completed the Spring Boot 3.x. Then Spring Boot 3.x access will be given to you.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So that's why I can, okay, got
Yeah.
it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, folks. Thanks a lot. Stopping my screen share for now, and then, yeah, Bhushan, any questions?
No,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah, great. Okay. Thank you so much, guys. See you tomorrow, with the Spring Framework architectures. Thanks a lot.